Daniel, founder of And So to Shop, and I am here with Ali Dowsing Reynolds, CEO and founder of Dowsing and Reynolds. Thank you so much for joining us, Ali. So let's start at the beginning. You launched your iconic brand as an online business, and we would love to hear what inspired you and James to set up this luxury interior brand.
Oh, thank you. It was a little bit by accident. I was just leafing through an interiors magazine, and James at the time was, he had a little bit of kind of stress in his job. So I was encouraging him to do lots of creative things to de-stress and to kind of, free his mind a little bit. And James being James doesn't do normal things. So he was doing concrete sculptures. As you do. And I was leafing through an interiors magazine and saw some concrete light fittings, and they were quite expensive, but they were really nice. And so I said, what I thought was an offhand comment was, oh, you could do something like this, and it'd be much more affordable. And what would be an offhand comment to kind of any other person, to James, he's got a real entrepreneurial spirit. So he was like, right, yeah, absolutely, I'll get those going on those concrete lamps. So he researched how to do the concrete, got some fabric cable in from Italy, saw some beautiful filament light bulbs, and the surplus he just decided, okay, I'll sell that on eBay, because he was currently buying and selling kind of things on eBay anyway, and they sold really well. So he then got some more light bulbs in, and they sold really well, and the business was born from there. And he decided, okay, so I'll experiment with kind of not just the light bulbs, I'll put some kind of basic kind of light fixtures together with the fabric cable that he'd sourced from Italy. And really went from there and built the business organically, very, very slowly, because it wasn't the intention ever to build a business that's the size of Dowsing and Reynolds is today. But I think that's been a real part of the journey. The James wanting to be happy and stress-free has really permeated our culture. It's really affected how we treat our teams and how we seek to lead Dowsing and Reynolds. So it wasn't very planned, but it's happened in a really lovely way.
What an amazing story, though, of how it's come about. And it's so good to have such a foundation as well. Like you say, that is then you look at the size of staff that you've got, the team that you have now, and you've got that value going all the way through, that kind of stress-free and joy, which you definitely get when you look at your brand and kind of on your social media, and you see what goes on behind the scenes. It looks like a really fun and nice place to work.
Oh, thank you.
But that's definitely obviously come from you both.
Yeah.
With retail changing then as quickly as it does in today's marketplace, obviously, especially in the last few months, one way of kind of staying ahead is kind of innovating and looking for that next opportunity. You seem to have really tapped into the future of physical retail as your store has kind of flexed during COVID. Obviously, had to be lots of changes. Can you share your strategy of kind of how you've done that?
Yeah, it was a real test and learn strategy, I'd say. We opened up in the beautiful Victoria Quarter in Leeds in September 2019, so right before the pandemic. And our strategy was to try to experiment. We worked with a retail psychologist called Kate Nightingale from Humanizing Brands, and she really helped us to understand how to present our brand and our products in a physical space. How to think about the interactions that customers were going to have as they came in. And we really wanted to kind of have a bit of a play with things, because although James has got lots of experience in physical retail, all my experience is ad agency, really. Yeah. And I came into the business in 2015 and I'm now CEO. I don't have that experience with physical retail. So I really wanted to get to grips with, I know lots about branding, but I don't know how to present that brand in a physical space. So I really wanted to work with an expert like Kate, use James's knowledge and just try things and, move things around, test messaging, test how we present products. And we managed to do that. We kept going right the way through the pandemic. We started off as a shop, actually kind of having the physical items there, but then we quickly realized that actually a showroom was going to work better for us, so we changed that around. And at the end of the pandemic, we kept going for a while, but footfall kind of wasn't where we needed it to be, really. And we felt that we'd got so many learnings that were great that we decided to take a pause on it. So we closed the showroom in the Victoria Quarter. But we're really looking forward to kind of going, okay, so what did we learn? And what do we want to do next? You know, do we want to open up something in Leeds? Do we want to open up something in London? Do we want to experiment with some pop-ups? And I think we'll probably do lots of those things as we move on to kind of the next chapter. But it's going to be, I think, probably next year, because this year has been an interesting year. So I think we're wanting to kind of get out some of the bumpiness of this year first.
I think it's brilliant that you've been able to take so much learning from it, and almost as much as it's not been a great kind of time period for anybody, for business owners and just people generally, it's actually given you kind of a freedom, I suppose, to try and experiment different things that you wouldn't necessarily normally have, because things have changed so much. You kind of had to think, oh, well, that's not really working anymore. Let's try and do this. Or how are shoppers kind of changing in terms of the habits and things like that. Obviously, having a physical store, it's very much about that kind of experience that customers are having. How would you say you've kind of dealt with that in terms of challenges when trying to digitally tell that story of physical products?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we are really proud of our website and the fact that we have worked really hard on how to present the products on that website. And it's
amazing. It looks like a magazine, going through your website. I used to use it to kind of just switch off a bit and get lost in all the beautiful products, but it is very much kind of editorial in how it is presented. It's beautiful.
Thank you. And a lot of hard work goes into that from our really talented team. But I think what we've done is we haven't paid enough attention to how we present our story. So we've put a lot of time and effort into our tone of voice, into our product descriptions, how we really kind of, help people to experience the product. So kind of trying to kind of do video. And when you're a growing team, it's not always easy, and you don't always have the resource to be able to, that the big e-commerce companies have, to be able to do lots of video, to do lots of AI and VR and things like that. So we've tried our best to kind of bring our products to life. We work with a lot of influencers, and they kindly give us their photos of our products in their homes, and that really helps bring them to life. But like I said, I think in terms of digital, I don't think we've told our story well enough on our story yet. The story of how it kind of came to be, James's kind of story as a designer. We've now got a full kind of design studio now. So we're really working hard on that within the team to kind of, for those who want to find out a bit more about the brand and what goes on behind the scenes, bringing that to life more on the website, because I think it can be hard, because in terms of digital real estate, there's only so much space that you've got. A physical store, it can be, you can fit a lot more in, and in a website you've got to capture people's attention, and then you've got to take them through to where they want to go very quickly. So managing kind of, do you want to know about our story? Here's why it's relevant, not just an about us page.
Yeah, and it's getting that balance it can be really tricky, can't it, online? Because like you say, when somebody's coming into a physical showroom or a shop, they're there for the experience. They've generally got the time to look around and kind of make the most of the environment they're in. Whereas on a website, often they're there just to shop. So it is getting that balance, I suppose, between giving the customer what they want in terms of physical product, but then also conveying that story as well. I think you do that really quite well in terms of your branding and your website. Although having that, obviously I didn't know the story in terms of how you came about. So it'll be really interesting to see how you convey that through the website and kind of share that story with consumers. So obviously you're a very aspirational brand. Your products are absolutely beautiful and they're highly coveted. I know customers often have to kind of wait on a waiting list to be able to get their hands on your gorgeous products. So can you share some of the secrets of how you've built such a loyal community?
I think it's about we're really passionate about your home's ability to affect how you feel on a daily basis. And I think we've all learned that in the pandemic. You know, we've all been surrounded by our homes a lot more, and they affect our mental health, they affect how we feel. And where we really want to create products that enhance that, you know, the products that we create, such as lighting, dimmer switches, light sockets, handles, you use those multiple times a day. They've got real everyday interactions. So if the feel of them, the look of them, the touch of them can bring you kind of little moments of joy every day, then that's a wonderful thing. And so I think that we attract a type of customer that is also quite passionate about their homes. They want to stamp their own identity onto their home, and they like to use our products to enable them to do that and to feel good at home. So I think that's kind of why that type of customer gravitates towards us and is really loyal to us, because I think, you know, we really kind of bounce off each other. We love seeing and hearing about customers who are getting a lot out of our products. Like a friend bought one of our pink taps, and she just said, I keep going to my kitchen and it just makes me smile every time. And that, I got goosebumps when I was just talking about it, because it having positive impacts on people really does a lot for us.
And it's such an overlooked thing, I think, as a business owner. You're very focused on kind of the day-to-day running of your business and everything that goes along with it. But it's such a privilege as a business owner, particularly a product business, that you're part of people's stories, you're part of their lives, you're part of their memories. And what you're doing as well, it is so niche. I know from when we were doing our house, when we were looking at light switches, every light switch just looked exactly the same and horrendous. And we came across your website because I was like, I just want a nice looking light switch. And it was almost like nobody had thought, oh, well, actually light switches, as well as being useful, can also look good as well. We found your website and I was like, yes, somebody has thought it and they've done it. And then that was it. I was lost down the rabbit hole of gorgeous products. Yeah, I think that is absolutely true. And I think your customers, obviously, they buy from you and they get such an amazing product that they then keep coming back and kind of, they want to show off their products as well, don't they? You want to show off your pink tap, which I've had a look at and I really, really want. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I suppose through that then they then share it on social media, and that kind of adds to that community feel, doesn't it? Because you're in their home and they're sharing that with you and your followers as well. So it's really lovely what you've managed to create. And thinking in terms of kind of customer journey and how you monitor that and how you help to improve that, how do you actually track and review and implement your customer insights?
We've got a great customer services team, and part of their job is not only to deal and to help with customers, but it's also to report back to us the conversations that they're having in terms of the ideas that those customers are having, any issues that they're having as well. So we have Slack channels and other reporting mechanisms where they can kind of go, right, a customer's kind of, you know, said they'd love to see this as part of the range. And that's how many of our products have started, you know, because some customers kind of said, you know, what about this? I think this will be great. And that, you know, really inspires James, and he'll go off down a rabbit hole of going, yes, I could create that. So that'll kind of really fit in. And they also look at our Trustpilot reviews as well. So we take those very seriously. Our customer services team review every single one and make sure that if there's any issues that we address them very quickly and transparently and honestly. And all of the kind of, you know, the good feedback also kind of comes through to us as well, and, you know, which is the majority, thankfully. But we want to make sure that we listen to both, and that, you know, because customers sometimes will kind of go, do you know what, this product's great, but actually I had a hard time fitting it. So then we'll kind of go, right, okay, let's change the design of that later on. So we listen, and I think it's really important to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not necessarily a nice part of running a business, but being able to take both types of feedback, positive and potentially constructive criticism as well, is really important, isn't it? Because otherwise you're potentially losing business. And I love the idea that you listen to customer feedback in terms of products as well and what people want to see. I feel like I will be messaging you with all my wonderful ideas.
Do it. And we love feedback. It's like gold dust.
Yeah. I suppose it's like that saying, isn't it, that two heads are better than one. You've got thousands of heads that all love their homes and potentially can give you good ideas. So making the most of it is wonderful. So what would you say are the benefits for retailers who embrace that consumer-led approach?
I think retailers that don't have a consumer-led approach won't ultimately survive. I think brands and retailers that don't understand their customers they're going to become dinosaurs now. We're seeing kind of, plenty of them go out of business, and they will become less relevant, and I think they'll disappear.
Yeah, I would agree. I think especially now, I think previously they might have been able to survive, but now consumers have such a power, and particularly with social media, they're able to have such an influence as well. That if businesses don't listen, it often, I think it really can be their downfall, can't it? And not just small businesses, big businesses as well, kind of can really come unstuck with that, and often rely on their size, and think that actually that consumer doesn't matter, but actually they all do, don't they?
It's why we're in business, is because the consumer needs or wants something, and we're trying to meet that need or that want. It's the consumer is the most important thing, apart from your team and your consumer, the two most important things.
It's definitely having that people-led approach that's really important, isn't it? And it's actually quite funny when you look at bigger businesses now that are cottoning on to that. They're kind of trying to get that across within how they do things or within their marketing. And it's almost like they're aspiring to be small businesses and kind of show off that we do have actual real people working here. But the joy of businesses like yourself is you actually do have real people. Your team are there because they want to do the job, and they're real people. I saw on your Instagram a little kind of behind the scenes of all of your team working, and kind of it was lovely to see them waving at the camera and actually see the people behind your brand and know these are the people that deal with my order, these are the people that make my product, and it's wonderful to be able to see that. So what are
you don't often get to see the actual people.
No, you don't. And certainly with big businesses, it's who knows who those people are. I feel like they're just all run by robots. So in terms of consumers then, what would you say they're looking for in brands have possibly been overlooked before? So we've talked about things like kind of that customer service and making sure that that experience is there. What else would you say consumers are wanting to see from brands now that they weren't perhaps wanting to see before?
Well, I think the obvious one is sustainability, which is growing in importance. I think consumers, especially Gen Z, are looking for that, increasingly looking to buy from companies who at least don't do harm and, hopefully are doing some good. Other than the obvious one of sustainability, I think personalization, and I don't mean the creepy personalization that isn't that useful to you. I mean a more genuine interest in finding out what the customer wants and then trying to deliver on that. We try to do that with our products in terms of customizing them to your home, because everyone has their own unique home. So being able to kind of customize maybe the colors of something, the finish, the length of the cord, the type of light bulb, we'll try and enable the customer to be able to make the product into what they need and want. And to do that, we try and have a kind of conversation with them, which we are kind of progressing in terms of the website. We deliver a one-on-one service, which you can buy into, which is all about styling and designing your home. So we can do that one-on-one over video with our trained interior designers, but we're now looking at how do we bring that to kind of en masse, really? How do we deliver that through the website, where we find out more about you and then deliver more of the products that you might want to see, or give you the type of content that you might want to see. So if you were kind of renovating your home, for instance, at the moment, rather than just decorating one room, if you were doing a whole big project, you'd want to see quite different things to kind of, hey, I just want to pick up a table lamp at the moment. You're knee deep in kind of plan, you might just need some support for getting through that and some tips and, whatever we can do to kind of, support through what is quite often a very stressful time. So that's what we're really interested in, is the customization and personalization to what the customer actually wants.
Yeah, and I suppose it's through that conversation, that's kind of two-way relationship, isn't it, between the brand and the consumer, that happens. And it certainly, when we renovated our house, that was exactly what we needed. I felt, to be honest, like I needed counselling from your website as well. But I got
so
by just looking at your pretty products instead and buying a nice door handle. So
no, we've had quite a few people say that to us, and I think you've got to be able to kind of de-stress where you can in that moment, haven't you? Because it's so stressful going through renovation. And so we take our kind of responsibility as a brand kind of going through that process with you quite seriously. And if we can help through that, whether it's by pretty products or, you know, on a page, or whether it's some kind of other service or kind of content, that's what we're really interested in digging into.
And obviously as well, the retail kind of space has really changed over the last few years with COVID, and with, I can't think we talked about it before, with people being so much more home based now, and kind of very much their world became their home for a long time, and it still is for a lot of people, with people flexibly working. How do you think that's kind of impacted customer decisions in terms of their priorities for products for their home?
Well, when the pandemic started, we were like many businesses, we were a bit like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And our revenues fell by about 40%. So customers were definitely, you know, deciding no decisions right now, no purchases, while everyone understandably was kind of going, they're just getting their heads around COVID. And then after that initial drop for about a month or so, we saw our revenues kind of, you know, go the opposite direction, which we know was challenging and is a very good story for us. And I definitely feel for those retailers that weren't in that position. But it did give many challenges to us. But I think that really reflected consumers spending a lot of time in their homes and wanting to prioritize that. They were all, like I said earlier, realizing that your home and your surroundings can affect your mental health. It can affect how you feel on a daily basis. So making sure that your home supports how you want to feel. People were making changes. They were bringing their home office into their home and wanting to kind of, you know, work with that. So that kind of that was kind of really kind of where customers were at, probably until about kind of February this year. And then February this year, we saw it drop again as people were coming out of the pandemic. You know, we were all going out to kind of restaurants again. We were seeing our friends. We're prioritizing going out and, you know, seeing people and socializing as so we should. So we've definitely seen that home and garden has dropped since then. We've had kind of, you know, little kind of peaks, and then it's kind of come down again as inflation kind of rises. I think this year is definitely probably one of the most uncertain years for us in terms of kind of revenue patterns, for sure. And I think customers, well, you know yourself, I mean, I'm a customer myself, you know, it's strange times. And so one minute I might want to buy something, but the next minute I might not want to. So yeah, it's a strange year this year.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think with cost of living and things like that, it's almost like the beginning of the pandemic again, isn't it? Where customers are kind of pausing everything to see what's going to happen. And with fuel prices going up and energy costs going up and kind of external things going on around the world as well, everybody is a little bit kind of, all right, I'll just hold what I'm doing and wait and see. And obviously there's also been issues to do with kind of supply chains and actually getting products into the country and being able to produce in the same way as what was happening before. Has that affected your business? And do you think that's kind of a short-term problem, or do you see it being longer term?
It definitely did affect our business, especially in the first year of the pandemic. We saw that our lead times went up massively. So we had to buy a lot more stock than we would usually do, which took a lot more cash. So that's why it gave us challenges in different ways. But we see the kind of supply chain starting to kind of get a little bit better at the moment. Transport is getting better. The supply chain is definitely getting better. It's nowhere near what it was at the start of the pandemic, but it's definitely easing. And I think long term it will get there, but I think it's going to be a gradual easing.
Yeah, I think as well, because of the nature of it, it is impacting everybody, isn't it? So it's not just something that's unique to your brand. And I think consumers are aware of that as well now. People accept that things might take a little bit longer, and they understand kind of how these things impact getting the product from there to your home. So I think as well, maybe having that understanding now is better in terms of consumers as well. Hopefully it will get better soon, along with everything. We touched on sustainability before, and obviously that is a massive thing, and it's something that everybody should be concerned about, and arguably it is the most important thing that we need to be thinking about at the moment. As a brand, how do you kind of deal with sustainability, and how do you increase that customer awareness around sustainability?
Well, we are currently working towards B Corp accreditation, and they have an excellent framework for businesses that want to do more in terms of sustainability, and we're transforming the way that we work alongside them, really. They've got an excellent program which helps us to look at every single area of our business and look at the effects on sustainability and how we can do more, and then put, legal commitments in place for what we're going to do about them. So I would, we're passionate about wanting to do good. We don't communicate that quite much at all to our customers at the moment, because I would say we want to do the hard work that we know that we've got to do to get to the place where we want to be. We're already doing good, but we want to do a lot better. And so I would kind of, to most brands, they kind of seem to kind of, not most brands, but some brands kind of seem to start with, well, how do we communicate to the customer and what we're going to say to them? But we're really wanting to start with what we're going to do, and then how we talk to the customer later.
Yeah, I think it's good to be able to do that as well, not just from an action perspective where you can show what you are doing, but also from an education perspective as well, because like you say, it's an area that there's an awful lot that you need to know about it, and it isn't just as simple as putting something for recycling or using recycled material, because that's not necessarily the best thing, and some things aren't recycled in a sustainable way, and it's kind of getting that education, and therefore being able to then pass that education on to the consumer as well as just kind of showing what you're doing as a brand. In terms of kind of demonstrating that kind of transparent commitment to sustainability, then obviously, once you feel that you're in a position to do so, how will you kind of convey that to your customers? Do you think it will be through social media, through your website? How do you think you will do that?
I think through all of what you just said, I think we'll do it through our packaging, and we already do that a little bit, but we want to do a lot more with our packaging. We are as plastic free at the moment as we can be, but we want to kind of, explain to people kind of, like where things come from, how they can recycle things, make sure that kind of, our boxes can be used for other things, and that reuse kind of thing is really kind of strong at our core. We'll tell people about it on social media and on our website as well. But I think we want to kind of, in the right way that isn't kind of going, hey, look at us, look at the good things that we're doing. It's got to be meaningful. It's got to be meaningful.
Yeah, and it's got to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of brands kind of say things, oh, look what we're doing, and without having that knowledge and education, and they're often caught out because people who understand sustainability will say to them, well, actually this is quite harmful, or did you know that this is what's actually ending up with the products or whatever it is. So I think you're definitely taking the right kind of perspective there.
Yeah, I think it can be scary as a brand and a retailer, because we know that none of us are ever going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to get things wrong. But I think we've got to be brave and at least make a start and keep trying to do better. That's what I think we need to keep doing, and welcoming feedback when people kind of say, hey, you think you're doing good here, but actually, did you know about this? Again, coming back to feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so important. And it definitely is about having kind of that sharing, isn't it, with both what you're doing and then your customers as well. I've just got one more question for you then, and then we'll kind of have a bit of a summary and sum up. So in terms of thinking about other brands, or just kind of general advice for business owners that might be watching, what would you say are the consequences for brands who don't keep up with consumer expectations?
I would say that if you don't understand your consumers' expectations, because, all of our target audiences, they have slightly different expectations. So I think the first thing I would say is to understand what their expectations are. And then if you don't deliver on that, you're going to disappear.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
In terms of getting that kind of that understanding, how would you suggest that you do that in terms of getting that customer feedback? Because we've talked obviously a lot about getting customer feedback, and you've talked about kind of using Trustpilot and things like that. Would you use things like social media or other ways of getting consumer feedback as well?
Yeah, we would. We've used email in the past, so we've done some customer surveys to our own bank of customers, and we've done that over email and given them a big kind of survey about kind of who they are, kind of what their expectations are, what their needs and their wants are, and what they expect from Dowsing and Reynolds. And our customers have been so helpful and kind with their information and time, and told us, you know, some brilliant information that's really helped us to understand how we can best meet those needs. So I think kind of doing big surveys is brilliant, but also taking the time to do little focus groups. So kind of, you know, saying, hey, you want to speak to kind of, you know, like 10, 20 of our kind of, you know, customers, from everything from really loyal customers to people who kind of maybe have bought with us once, and just taking the time to just chat to them. Really, we've phoned our customers before and kind of, you know, paid them for their time to kind of say, hey, can we just take half an hour of your time and chat to you on the phone about kind of you and kind of what you think. We've done that in the past. And so I think kind of using different kind of modes, from kind of, you know, mass down to kind of micro, that's the kind of the way to do it. It can be easy when you've got a physical store, because then you're kind of, you know, your staff can be keeping that conversation going to customers. It's not as easy when you're just digital, because you've got to just, you know, kind of go out and say, hey, please can you give me some of your time to talk to me. But I think if you're genuine and you're not just doing a survey, you're actually wanting to make some use of their time and the effort that they're putting into giving you the answers, then you'll get good results, and, you know, your customers will tell you what they think.
And I think it very much kind of feeds into what we were talking about before, that you've built up that brand with a consumer base of people who are interested in what you're doing, and almost they want to be part of your journey too. So I suppose that they've got a motivation to give you that information and possibly see their ideas kind of come to life as well. So it kind of all feeds into each other, doesn't it? That kind of building the brand that you have, and then having that conversation. Brilliant, fantastic. Well, we'll just finish off then. So I'm just going to kind of recap what we've gone over. So obviously we've talked about where your brand came from and how you managed to go from, I love that conversation with James, oh, why don't you do this, not thinking anything would come from it, and now you kind of have this amazing team and an absolutely beautiful brand with beautiful products that meet a real need for your consumers. We've also covered things like sustainability, and we've talked about issues in terms of product delivery and delays and things like that. We've also touched on the pandemic and how that's informed your business and how it's changed how your business has ran. And we've also talked about kind of what you've learned as well along your business journey, and particularly in relation to COVID and what worked, and that kind of consumer relationship as well. So taking on board customer feedback, which is absolutely brilliant. We'll just finish off then with 3 tips that you might want to give to our business owners that are watching.
I would say for me, understand your customers, what makes them tick, understand what their needs are, understand what their wants are, just get to know them, and then have a think about how you can deliver on those wants and needs and how you can keep the conversation going. I would say that's the first thing for me, is understanding the customers. I think the second one is, you know, sustainability is important. Make sure you are doing something in this area, but don't let perfectionism stop you from doing anything at all. Just get stuck in, do the hard work, and then figure out how you're going to tell customers about it. Make sure you're doing the work first so that it's meaningful and so that it's genuine. I think that's the second thing. And I think the third thing is it's all about team. We're a really kind of close-knit team that's kind of built on collaboration and innovating together and enjoying the journey that we're all on together. We've not been a brand that's been chasing huge growth. It's come organically to us because we've really wanted to enjoy the journey and not the destination. So I think to any business owner, how you treat your team and how you interact with them is one of the most important things you can do. Your culture is I think, the most important thing that you've got.
Yeah, absolutely, because it comes through in every aspect of your business, doesn't it? So it really, really is key. Lastly then, we'll just, if you could share with us your website and kind of social media handles, that would be great, so people know where they can find you.
So our website is www.dowsingandreynolds.com. So that's DOWSINGANDREYNOLDS, dowsingandreynolds.com. So that's the website. Our Instagram is Dowsing and Reynolds again. And if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm Ali, ALLY, Dowsing Reynolds on Instagram.
Thank you ever so much for joining us, Ali. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you and learning about your absolutely beautiful brand. And we look forward to seeing what the future holds for you with all these exciting opportunities and kind of what's going to come next. So thank you ever so much again. And thank you for joining us as well to everybody who is watching.
Thank you.